Hey, Enneagram friend. This is Abby Rodriguez, your certified and IEA accredited Enneagram teacher and coach. And today we are talking all about stress. So in this next series, we're going to look at the stress response for each of the 9 types. And there was an initial introduction episode to this series. So if you haven't listened to that yet, go back and listen to that first and then come back to this number. The audio for these episodes is taken from the Growth and Self-Care Workshop audio that's available for purchase for only $20 on my website if you want to learn more. This episode is all about the stress response for type 8. When type 8 experiences stress, first they will exhibit some of the unhelpful tendencies in their own type structure. And so the gifts of the type become excessive and imbalanced, and therefore they become unhelpful. When 8s experience stress and kind of dip down to the lower levels of their number, what that stress looks like in their own type structure is that they can be careless in their decision making. They're trying to get things done quickly, maybe too many things done too quickly, and they kind of put their head down and try to do things independently rather than asking for help or for feedback or for others to buy into what's going on. In that stress space, the type 8 can also come off more intimidating to others because they're moving so quickly and they're not always slowing down enough to be respectful of others, the humanity in others, meaning their thoughts or feelings or needs or experiences. The 8 is just going so quickly, trying to resolve often whatever is stressing them out, that they're not always respecting the dignity of others around them. And that can feel really intimidating or more aggressive than the 8 even realizes they're coming off. In that stress space, when 8s are kind of weary from protecting others or protecting themselves from always fighting and feeling the exhaustion of feeling like they are constantly with their fists up, their justice orientation can kind of turn into the lower side of just being vengeful or argumentative. What was this fighting the good fight turns into I'm exhausted and I am just snapping or barking at whoever is around me because we're just tired, and it's hard to be thoughtful about fighting the good fight when you're tired. If the 8 experiences so much stress, or sometimes just certain types of stress, the type that they reach out to and as a resource is type 5. But if they're not cognizant of that stress move, it's almost like they get pushed across the diagram to type 5, and they will naturally go to the lower side of type 5 as a result. So on the lower side of type 5, the 8 becomes isolated, and they insist on having time and space before they're ready to participate again. It's not even just this quiet withdrawing. It is I have to have this space alone. I have to have privacy. I have to have time because there's still 8 energy to it. And so it's demanding privacy, demanding isolation, demanding time away. In this space, they become more quiet. They become more detached from what's happening, which is already an orientation of being more detached from their emotions, especially tender emotions. And so in this 5 space, the type 8 becomes even more detached and even more disconnected from their emotional experience. And in that, oftentimes when emotions do come up, they're really secretive about it, and they want to kind of resolve those emotions on their own in private. In this type 5 space, the 8 also becomes more preoccupied with new interest. So sometimes that's going down the rabbit hole. I know for me, that often has shown up when I was starting my business in using a lot of 5 energy to learn everything I needed to learn, which is good, except that it was actually me coping with stress. And there was lots of spaces where I could have just asked for help instead of reading, 1,000 books to figure out all the things with business in addition to my coaching practice and wanting to be proficient in my Enneagram work. So, going down the rabbit hole on new interests or even collecting resources, learning new things in order to continue doing things independently. If the 8 realizes they're stressed, though, they can instead choose to access type 5 as a resource for them. They can go to the high side of type 5. So on the high side of type 5, the 8 can use that stress number to kind of pull back and observe, but they do that with intentionality. So it's not quitting. It's not escaping. It's not, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. It's a, hey, I'm overwhelmed. I realize what that is going on. I realize if I say anything else, it's going to be unhelpful for this conversation and it's not going to be honoring of how I wanted to show up in this space. And so I'm choosing to take time away from this conversation. I'm choosing to give myself a couple of hours. I'm choosing to reconvene at a later time. I'm choosing to slow down and to delegate some of the things on my plate or ask for help with some of these things on my plate. So a slower posture that is a choice, not I've all of a sudden escaped or quit from this. In this space, this high side of type 5, the 8 could also use that 5 energy just to watch and just to listen on the sidelines rather than having to have all the answers or to be the leader, to be the one that's in control. And that can be such a gift for 5s when someone else steps up and takes the lead and they intentionally choose just to follow, just to listen, just to observe without having to be the one that's protecting everyone else or is leading or blazing the trail ahead. They're just listening and watching and learning and observing and recovering in that more restful space. So again, just a reminder to be kind to yourself, to be compassionate about your experience. It's not about beating yourself up for some of the unhelpful behaviors that you notice, but rather the intention of bringing some awareness around this pattern, and also so that you can give yourself some support. Some of these unhelpful behaviors that we're talking about, they're related to stress. And so rather than beating ourselves up that we're stressed, the invitation is, could we be instead kind to ourselves and noticing, yeah, this isn't a great behavior. I'm just stressed though. And so can we instead provide some support and care for ourselves rather than beating ourselves up about whatever reaction we had? And so taking a moment to pause, to breathe, to check in with your felt sense in that moment. Can you feel your nervous system dysregulated? Can you feel knots in your stomach, or maybe there's a heat in your felt sense or a tightness in your chest? What's happening in your felt sense? And pausing and noticing what's happening so that you can choose how you want to move forward rather than getting caught up in the reactivity of it. And really an invitation to name what you need. As you observe some of these pieces that are happening for you, what is it that you need if you're stressed? Is there a stressor that you can mitigate or remove? Is there some type of support you can add in to balance the triggering aspect of that stressor? Or maybe is there, a need that's not being met, a boundary that you need to put in place, or maybe just an area that you need support. So giving yourself some compassion, because the reality is you're just stressed. That's why these things are happening. Hey friends, the audio for these episodes is taken from the Growth and Self-Care Workshop audio that's available for purchase for only $20 on my website if you want to learn more. The teaching audio is over 4 hours of Enneagram content where I walk you through type-specific stressors and the natural stress response for each type and how we can better manage stress and how we can incorporate practices for self-care based on our type into our everyday life. The teaching audio is a digital download, so you can listen to it on your phone or your computer, and it also comes with a digital workbook. So I really want to encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity or to give it to a friend in this season if you have someone that's coming to mind that has a lot of stress and needs some support to navigate that.